And I just click on that. Got it. Aye.
You just or click on the X to get rid of it.
There's more and more people appearing all the time. I'm just got it. I think YouTube's about to start streaming now.
Okay, come on, we'll be doing that. Is that look normally? Look.
Yeah, that's the agenda.
Oh, I started walk at 7 o'clock this morning. And I got so fucking angry at him. I was like,
Oh, I don't know why though.
Another 4 coming in. So YouTube's about to start streaming now.
Well, I had it off so they
Sorry,
can see me
mysterious. Do we have any wrapping paper?
somewhere around. Yeah.
You have your mic on, by the way.
No, it's not. It's muted. Because normally, and the picture just comes on then, doesn't it?
Yeah, for those people who are in the Zoom meeting, just make sure that you don't have YouTube going as well, because there's a delay to YouTube and it creates a real mess with echoes if you are going to talk, that is. There's a few more still coming in.
Oh, hang on.
But if you're a member, I don't know how you're going to count. You can't really count right on YouTube, can you?
Well, I think Maddie only sent the
Yeah,
the YouTube people. Yeah, well, we've got there's more coming in. We've got
And that
20,
just comes up big, doesn't it, later on?
27 now in Zoom. So
Sometimes.
Beautiful. Good. Let's jump through to item number 5 straight away.
Oh, that's just how many's in there. They can see you there now. They can see you.
So I'm just going to oh, that's right. I'm just going to mute everybody and then I'll unmute myself, Maddie, and you can and you don't mind for the time being.
yeah, that's fine.
Reckon the restaurant wants.
You can unmute yourself, Maddie, if you want. I think there's somebody else here that's. Are you speaking, Maddie? I can't hear you.
No, I was speaking to Dad.
Oh, okay.
Good evening.
There's still an odd person coming in, but it sort of seems to have slowed down a bit.
Yeah, we might start it off because I think we've got a few things to go through tonight, so we might as well get it started. So welcome everyone to our October meeting. We're on Zoom again, unfortunately. The talk is at the moment, I think November will also be on Zoom. Our hall is being used as like the main vaccination hub in Fairfield. So we have no hall at the moment, but that's something that we have only just found out in the last day or two. So we'll sort that one out for future. But I would say November will also be on Zoom, and then we'll work out the Christmas party and things like that. Ben, did you want to give a sales table update, please?
Not really. Yeah, look, not much to say with the sales table. There's a couple of orders trickling through. I'm trying to stay on top of all the orders, but with my workload at the moment, I'm back to working 7 days, so it's making it a little bit difficult, but trying to keep on top of it. So trying to get out this Sunday, pack some orders. So if there's anything that anyone wants, send me a text or an email and I'll see what we can do with it.
Awesome. Thanks for all your efforts, Ben.
So welcome.
We started saving you now.
Brian, and I should have said at the start as well, we're going to do the normal meeting part first, and then we'll quickly do the AGM and then go to the guest speaker. Brian?
Yep, thanks, Maddie. Yeah, it's all quiet in the Western Front, really. Still getting quite a few memberships through. I think something like 9 new memberships in the last fortnight. Hopefully some of those are online tonight. Welcome. With the next magazine must be coming out soon. So if you want to put any ads in that magazine, send me either your wanted or for sale ads, either by email or you can text them to me. And my details are in the front of the magazine, and we can make sure they get into the next magazine. Probably I might need to send them in the next week or so. And I think next magazine will probably be the renewal magazine for the coming year. That's about it. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you. Sam, the Treasurer's report.
Yeah, so at the moment today there is $28,996.59 in the club's account, but we've got bills to pay because we haven't been able to access the account because it requires 2 signatures and we haven't had live meetings. There's $2,545.49 that's got to be paid, which is essentially the last 2 magazines and packaging and all that for the magazines, and also some refunds that I just used my money for to people for Spring into Finches. So that was money that they paid earlier in the year, and it wasn't right to make them wait months and months. And a bit of money for Ben and so on because the trailer had to be re-registered. So we're in the process of sorting that actually to sort out the bank account so that Ben's got online access because he lives at least within spitting distance of me. So 2 of us can sign the account because that's been a bit of a stumbling block with COVID. So actually, if you take that money out, the club's got $26,451.10 essentially in cash at the moment. But obviously at the AGM I'll explain a little bit more about that. There is just in terms of in my role as the editor. Yes, the magazine's about to come, and I apologise for it being a little late. This magazine does normally include the details of the AGM, so I guess I'm using that as an excuse. But after tonight, I'll have all that information to get it sorted and to the printer next week. So as Brian said, if you've got ads for birds, you need to get them to Brian Quicksmart if you want to make sure that this week, to be honest, if you want to make sure that they're going to make the magazine. That I think is all.
Awesome, thank you. Then our lovely Constitution is up next. So thank you for everyone tuning in tonight. I know I stressed in my email that we needed to have a fair few people on the Zoom tonight, particularly to pass it. So in order to, we raised a motion at the last meeting and moved to vote on the Constitution at this meeting or the next general meeting. We've sent out the Constitution to all members, so I hope everyone has read through it. There was also like a bit of an overview in the magazine. In order to pass it, we need 75% of members to be in agreement. Everyone that's on Zoom is a financial member because I only sent the link to financial members this month. Dawn, did you want to say anything? Is there anything else that I'm supposed to be saying with this? I did see Dawn on before.
Yeah, he is. Okay.
You got to unmute yourself, Dawn. Sam, are you able to?
No, I can. I'm asking. I've just clicked to ask it to unmute.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Have I unmuted myself?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Good. Look, I think it's been through the rounds with the committee. It's got full approval of the committee. There was an update in the last magazine, as you mentioned, Maddie. It's really just to modernise the Constitution to conform with the current 2009 Fair Trading Act. So I don't think there's anything further to add. It really won't change in any way the way we conduct our meetings. And we tried to make constitution as user-friendly as possible. So like for the AGM, we've still got verbal nominations, etc. So the meetings you know and love will pretty much stay the same.
Yes.
So we're happy to field any questions or that members may have. Otherwise, we put the resolution, Maddie.
Yes. Did anyone have any comments or read through? I know that Jason Forrest said that he had a read through. Did anyone have any comments or anything that they?
Just thanks to Don for all his hard work and persistence in making sure we got to the end of the journey. It was really much appreciated by all of us, because otherwise one of us would have had to do it, Don.
Yeah, I'll second Brian's comment, because as I well know, I think when I first became president of the Finch, whenever that was, 8 or 9 years ago, something or other, this was actually sort of first, it had been going for a while then, I suspect, Don, actually, hadn't it? So, I mean, this has been a mammoth task. And as you said, it's updating it to reflect current legislation, also to reflect, you know, the way the club's been operating for, you know, at least a decade.
Yes.
So I recommend everybody vote in favour of it as well.
Maddie, I'd just like to support both Sam and Brian. I think Don's done a fantastic job updating the Constitution, and congratulations not only to Don but to everybody involved. It's not an easy job to do, so terrific work. Thank you.
Okay, and yeah, thank you very much, Don, for all of your efforts and updates on the draft, the spelling, checking all my spelling from when I retyped it up. There was a few errors there. And yeah, I think the best way or easiest maybe is if anyone's against it, then we take the against votes. And if nobody is against it, then
Yeah, well, hopefully we're all for it, and I certainly am. And if anyone has some problems, let us know.
Yeah, if you're against, you can either unmute yourself and speak up now. There's 33 people, or down in the bar at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you've got a reactions button. So I guess you can raise your hand or do something that way if you wish to lodge some sort of objection. I can't see that anybody's actually. There is someone's giving it the thumbs up, but I don't think there's anybody objecting. So speak
that'd
up.
Make it unanimous then, would it?
Can we call that unanimous?
I wouldn't like to say.
I will. I'll say it's unanimous.
I'll call it unanimous. I'll put my name out there.
Pass.
all right.
All right,
And
well
we
done.
didn't
Thanks,
receive
Don.
any verbal email communications either. So I think we'll move it that we've finally passed the Constitution after all this time.
Hey,
Hey,
good riddance to that bloody thing.
exactly.
Never to hear
So
of
we
it
don't have to
again.
look at that for another 10 years or 20 maybe.
Yeah, if you can fix it in another 10 years, Sam.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your efforts. We will move on. Thank you very much. Sam, did you want to do the government update, please?
Yep, you've probably all seen the emails, I guess, about the proposal for a national registration scheme for live birds, both exotic and native. So that we don't understand exactly where that came from. Just the quick history of it, I suppose, and I know you people are probably bored with me, rabbiting on about all this, but I mean there were some proposals put to the government by certain people for this kind of thing, and they were supported unfortunately by one or two clubs. CCBFA and FSA have been adamantly opposed, I think, to any sort of national registration scheme since the year dot, including since the NEBRA scheme. Myself, I've been involved at a range of government meetings over the years in Canberra, and obviously using Zoom more recently, discussing this matter. I think the only other person who's here, I might be wrong, but I think Murray's probably the only other one who spoke to the most recent Think Place consultants before this survey was put out. we sort of formed the view that this was just bureaucrats ticking boxes at that stage. And then, of course, this survey came out that was almost recommending a national registration scheme. It was certainly proposing it as a real possibility. And that scheme, given all the background that I've got in this matter and various other people, including, I think Brian probably knows better too, and certainly Murray does, it was envisaged to enable exports and imports, and it was a particular view of how CITES works. So CITES, Appendix 1 is the really endangered species, which includes a fair few parrots, includes the red siskin, is the only finch. Then CITES Appendix 2 includes every other parrot species apart from budgerigars, cockatiels, peachface, and Indian ringneck. So virtually every parrot apart from those 4 species are included on CITES. They're CITES listed species. That's 100% fact. There's also a couple of finches on Appendix 2, black-throated finch, and also I think just the southern subspecies, what we know as parsons. The Java sparrow, they're endangered in the wild, obviously on the island of Java, and also green strawberries. There's a couple of others, but they're the ones, and obviously there's not many green strawberries left here in Australia, but they're the ones that are in Australian aviculture. So essentially all parrots and those red siskin, black-throated finch, Java sparrow, and green strawberry, they're all parrots apart from budgies, cockatiels, peachface, and ringnecks. That is a fact. So whatever other nonsense is floating around there, I know most people aren't silly enough to read Talking Birds, but that is a fact. All those species are on CITES, because I'm sorry for repeating it so often, but I keep getting emails and phone calls and nonsense from people saying, oh, no, it's not going to affect most people. It's only CITES birds. Well, CITES birds includes every neophema. If you have a scarlet-chested parrot or a Burke parrot in your aviary, you would potentially have to register them with Canberra under this proposal. That's a fact. If you've got a princess parrot, if you've got a pet eclectus, if you've got a pet macaw, any natives and exotics, every parrot, apart from budgies, cockatiels, peachface, and ringnecks, and of course those few finch species are involved. So don't believe everything that you read. It is a big drama, and there are ongoing meetings now. I've just had some more information back from the Think Place organisation, where I've got a couple of meetings that we'll schedule next week to talk about numbers, both in terms of the number of, in some cases there were, 1 or 2 of a particular species of parrot, and it's all parrots are the issues, 1 or 2 individuals of a particular species in Australia during the Nebris years in the early 2000s. In some cases, there are now hundreds of them, and every subspecies of that species or a range of subspecies of that species are now in Australia. So we'll have a meeting to look at those sort of issues too, which prove that Nebris did not work. This is about the importers managing the big importers and exporters. So Federation supports import and export, but we want it done in a way that is accessible to everybody, and that only involves people having to muck around and do paperwork who wish to export or wish to import. Nobody else. We're adamantly opposed to every agriculturist having to, fill out a bit of paper and send it to Canberra every time a bird lays an egg is insane. I'm happy to answer any questions on that whole, the survey's already, the time's finished to fill out the survey, but thanks very much to all those people who did fill it out. And I'll certainly report back numbers of surveys that were completed once I know. Is there any questions on that significant issue? It's sorry, David Pace has been sitting in the waiting room. In my view, that issue is possibly the most significant issue that's faced agriculture in 20 years. If that were to happen, well, first of all, the reality is most of us wouldn't do it, I think. So there'd be a whole lot of illegal activity, just the same as there is with New South Wales licensing currently. Not much, well, a good proportion of people just don't bother with it. or certainly don't keep accurate records. And this system would be the same. So there'd be massive non-compliance. And second of all, the people who would do it are the people who are all trying to do the right thing, where it's a pointless exercise. So again, if anybody does have questions about it, you might not like to ask in this meeting, but by all means, email me or contact me. I'm more than happy to talk to people about it, because there is a deal of misinformation going on, which you would imagine that, and I won't go into the details of why the people who want to import or even potentially people who may well be involved in smuggling parrots in and out of Australia, but there are reasons, very good reasons, why those people would want such a scheme to be put in place in preference to DNA systems that we're recommending. So there is a sort of a backstory to all of this that now's not the place to go into it, of course. So again, by all means, contact me if you've got further questions. Thanks, guys.
And also, so I'll just say that if you can't get in touch with Sam, I encourage you to talk to any committee member, because we're all sort of across it and got some thoughts on the matter. And just let the committee know if you've got some issues, and we can help sort them out.
Yes, that's very good. All good. Next up, we've got the major raffle prizes. So I'm just finalising those prizes this week, and then that flyer will go in the next magazine. So the next magazine will have a fair bit of things in it. So make sure you keep your eye out for that. A few of the prizes we've got is 2 bags of Abbey Green Finch Blue bags, 20 kilo bags. One of the metal bird signs. I'll put a picture in the flyer so you can see that. They're really awesome. The new book that is coming out by the Queensland Finch Society, or Naturally for Birds. It's like a rewrite of the original foreign finches book that they produced. And there was a few other things, but if anyone had a pair of birds that they would like to donate, could you please let me know, or anyone on the committee know, just so that we can add that by the end of this week. So we always normally try to have at least 1 pair of birds as one of the prizes, which is normally exciting. So if anyone has any ideas or something that the club could try to organise, or if they would like to donate, just let me know, please. And Sam, was Steve on tonight for the black throat update, or did you want to do it? It doesn't look like he's on.
Yeah, there's a couple of kind of phones and iPads and things. If one of them is either Simon Degenhardt or Steve Sass, please, speak up and let us and have your say as well. So the black-throated finch project that the Australian Society for Avian Preservation that Simon Degenhardt and I have started, and also Steve Sass's business in Envirokey. A few updates. We've had, so the word has been spread to councils throughout, sort of centred on Inverell, all the councils around that area. There's, I think, 7 or 8 councils, and they've been advertising it within their tourism brochures and various things, and sending it out in emails and all that. And I thought, well, I don't take a great deal of notice of stuff that my council sends me, but you know what? There obviously are people who do. Because we have had, probably 10 or so replies of possible sightings. A number of them have been awesome. And Steve Sass is looking into those. And obviously we've got to check. We're circulating, this week, we've kind of been circulating a picture of a black-throated finch and a chestnut around all those areas and on social media and so on, to make sure that people know the difference, because that's probably the most likely finch that's common in many of these areas that people might mistake for a black-throat. But there's been a few that you'd really wonder what they've written in the email and stuff, that it couldn't be a black-throat. But we don't have a photo, so it's a little bit like Bigfoot, isn't it? Everybody's seen Bigfoot, but everyone's just got a blurry picture of it running in the distance. So until we get one, We don't know. So, I mean, obviously that would be fantastic if we found them in New South Wales again. That would actually, from a scientific point of view, solve a lot of problems. We've had a few meetings with, I'm not sure whether I mentioned, have we met with Macquarie Uni last month? I think not. I think Simon Griffith might have been in this meeting last month. And then he subsequently contacted us. And we're now looking to perhaps partner with Macquarie Uni. And that would involve, I'm in the process of just getting some quotes for building aviaries, and it would probably be somewhere, we don't know exactly where, but certainly in the area, somewhere around Inverell, where we'd build some, substantial sort of planted aviaries and also some, banks of aviaries, kind of Save the Gouldian Fund style, to begin breeding black-throated finches. Now, we would hope that if we found a wild population, we could use some of that stock as a founding population, but otherwise we would certainly be, looking at the researcher would be, I think she did the sort of a sexing talk here, where she was, not quite sure how to say it politely, but she was taking sperm from male finches, let's put it that way, to prove that they were males. So that's I can't quite remember her name at this point, but maybe that's who would be there. And the good thing would be that would sort of pay for somebody full-time to man, we should be doing research course into black-throated finches, to man that facility, and then we'd have volunteers to come in and help her, in terms of cleaning and feeding and that sort of thing. So whether that'll go, I don't know, but it's early days. But that's really exciting, possible extension to the project at this stage. So yeah, no, it's going very well, been well received. And if you want to donate, there's a GoFundMe that's raised about $1,500 so far. And the good thing is that essentially, and don't tell you on this, but the more money that we get donated and the more volunteers that we get, essentially the funding that we'll get from government grants will at least match that. And there may actually be a way for it to sort of match it twice, because there's grants that Macquarie Uni can get and there's grants that we can get. And often these things are, well, if you've raised X number of dollars, then we'll, the government will throw in X dollars as well to match it. So you can kind of think, well, if you give $20 or $50, that potentially is probably worth, $40 or maybe even 60, or if you give 50, obviously $100, $150 to the project. So I'd encourage people to look at that. I think I'll find the URL at some stage while someone else is talking, and I'll post it in the whatever the chat section is in here, so that people have got that link to the GoFundMe. If there's any questions, please ask us, ask myself or Steve or Simon if you want to contact any of them. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. It's very exciting to see that there's already been sightings after it only being active for such a short notice, which is really good. It's a good sign. I think we mentioned it before, but renewals will be in the next magazine as well. And then for the normal part of the meeting, was there any other business or things that people wanted to raise?
Maddie, I was thinking we heard a little rumour there might be another auction on towards the end of the year. If you want to mention that or discuss that or see how enthusiastic people might be for such a thing.
Yes, I was supposed to mention that. So thank you for reminding me. Yes, so I said at the start that we do not have our hall. It's being used by New South Wales Health at the moment for immunisations. So we are tossing around the idea of using Sam's warehouse I think it's in Richmond, and using the same setup that we did last year and doing an online auction. It worked quite well last year. I think most buyers and sellers were happy with how it went. The club raised a bit of money. It was quite a successful day. Not as many birds entered as we wanted initially, but then on the day it was quite enough birds. So would they like the idea of an auction again this year? Because we think a sales completely out of the question. I think it would only be possibly an auction this year.
I vote for an auction.
Anyone else have any thoughts if we do an auction, or any ideas towards the auction, like things that went well last year that we could do again or change certain things?
I'm all for it. Thanks, Sam, for offering the warehouse, and I'll help out any way I can.
Thanks, Ivan. Yeah, I think just one alteration I think that would work. There are some bigger breeders that are out of Sydney, where obviously bringing birds to us is a bit of a drama. I was thinking if people want to enter, sort of 10 pairs or so, and they're not in Sydney, then we could send the boxes to them, and they can photograph their own birds, and because who the breeder is, and then I can organise this. Was it first class transfer? I forget now. We can organise them to sort of pick up, from that place. Might work fine. And I'm not sure whether it was absolutely necessary for, mind you, it's great at the Brinkets to purchase the leftover birds, but maybe that's not absolutely necessary. It wouldn't have been such a big deal given the numbers for pairs that weren't sold, that were passed in at auction. There wasn't that many, I don't think, that were passed in last year, but the ones that were, I think it would be reasonable if you wanted to just come and, if they weren't sold, for you to just come back later in the afternoon, or even, to be honest, come back to one of the pickup spots that we organise and just take your birds back. I don't think that would have actually been a major issue.
Maybe we could have as an option that if you want to take your birds back at the end, if they don't sell, then that's what you can do, or we can. The
only thing I was thinking is maybe we try and look at the timing a little bit, bring the finish time a little bit earlier, because for us it did end up being a little bit late when we got up the coast, and then we sort of had to meet up with people. So maybe even if it's just 1 hour earlier, the finish time for the auction, just a little bit of a jig on the time or something.
Yeah, there was a bit of mucking around too, wasn't there? Once the auction was over, it was. Well, I think some of us in the hall sort of thought, the auction's over, we're finished. We only just started then. We had to make sure people had paid and sort them out, work out where they were going, and it became, it was a bit mental. So particularly if we've got more birds there.
Also, maybe jig the auction a little bit, that say certain lots might finish earlier, might give us then time to start organising a bit earlier, possibly as well.
I agree with some of that stuff that's discussed, but you can't finish the auction earlier, Maddie, for some items, because with the delivery points we had organised, you had to wait to the end to see who bought them.
Yeah,
that was one of the problems we had. The other issue was that it took a long time for some people to pay. So if there's some way of making sure that that's sorted out, then, because I know that one of the people we delivered to was sitting there for 2 hours waiting for us to turn up. So that was an issue that if we can sort out, that would make life a lot easier for people picking up their birds and for whoever it is that gets to deliver them.
Yeah, I guess we can make it. I mean, maybe we can sort of do, have something like Zoom or YouTube going online while the auction's on too. Encourage people in every post to be watching there, so we can give updates, and then we can have the cranky pants like Brian sort of going, if you've won an auction, go and pay now, because some of them we gave up on some people, I think, at one stage, and started stacking the boxes over in the. Sell them to the Brinkets, and then suddenly someone paid, $500 or whatever, and no, now we've got to, redistribute them to wherever they were going.
Exactly. So I think you've got to finish it at least an hour earlier than you would want it to finish, so that it gives you that time to sort all that sort of stuff out. Either that, or pay for a room for us all to stay in.
Put a tent up in the warehouse.
Yeah, I'll bring you sleeping bags, enough room on the floor.
Yeah, well, because I think it's about 2 hours for Dad and I back home. So I think we weren't dropping off birds, or we got back to Nana and Pa's house, I think, at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So then people weren't picking up their birds till quite late, which luckily it was daylight savings, but still. So yeah, just a few things to work out maybe.
I'm looking forward to it being at Richmond instead of down at Hawkwood.
Yes, the centre of COVID. That email from council was basically saying that our hall is being used. I think Maddie mentioned it as a COVID hub, and at the moment the Department of Health has, tentatively got it booked until the end of the year. So it's unlikely that we'll be back in that hall this year. Is the reality.
Incidentally, have we rebooked it for the following year?
No, that's about to come through. Whatever her name is from council sent me something about that as well. So that'll happen in the next week or two. And they've agreed to give us credit for all because we paid for the whole year. So they'll credit our account, for all the ones obviously where we haven't used it, including the sale day. I think just for people who are listening, because there were some people a little bit worried about the buying and then having. I mean, I think that when they were picking them up from Maddie or me or Brian or whoever else, had them around different spots, on the outskirts of Sydney, that part of it was fine. But the transport, this first class transport, that was incredibly smooth. I'm not sure if there's anybody online now who had some delivered to them. There may be, but that, from my perspective, went really well. I took a whole heap to Eastern Creek. I kept them at my place overnight, I think, or maybe a couple of days, I forget. Took them to Eastern Creek where the guys picked them up, and they were like, vans went north, vans went south with all these birds. And I kept getting emails all throughout the day as they dropped them off, as they went up the Hume or down the Hume or up the Pacific Highway, or did they go, I can't remember whether it was Pacific Highway, New England Highway, but anyway, went north and went south. And I'd get an email that had, such and such has collected these birds, and a nice little photo. I should put them in the magazine, maybe. It'll stop people wanting to buy if they're going to be in the magazine. People standing there holding their box of birds to prove that they'd got them. And there were just no issues with it. It was brilliant. Even people in Melbourne had them that night,
Sam, I was going to say that maybe it might be timely to have a little note in the next magazine with one or two of those photos, because I was just thinking that auction is probably 8 or 9 weeks away.
Yes.
We'll need to make our decisions and get on with it pretty quickly.
We shall, yes. Yeah.
And then make sure there's enough people interested to provide enough items to sell.
Yes, well, we'll look into that and sort it out so that we can get it in the next magazine within the next few days. Just 2 other quick points. First one, Sam, do you know if there's going to be any changes to the New South Wales licensing, changes because of the government's all changing? Someone messaged me about it.
Yeah, well, let's hope that there's a new environment minister, because Matt Keane hasn't been too good, and then we need a new head of national parks as well, I guess, because they haven't been too helpful. But look, to be honest, with the federal stuff, I haven't got back to that. I think I mentioned at the last meeting, ACA put in they did a GIPA request, which is a freedom of information equivalent at the state level, and they got back that there was nobody who'd whinged about it. And then we knew that there were, we on good advice, that there were people who'd whinged to national parks. So we actually asked for a review of that and said, well, hang on, we've got some documents that say otherwise. And that went back to the government, and they came back, and still they're adamant. There are no documents of anybody opposing this being done. So I haven't, to be honest, got back to the head of national parks. I have mentioned this to the minister's chief of staff, but that's in amongst all this, premier resigning and yada yada yada, and COVID-19 and that. I haven't followed.
Probably got to wait to get a new minister now, anyway.
Yeah, probably will.
Yeah. All good. And then the second thing was, because of the club, the whole thingy, we're also looking at the Christmas party, possibly doing it at a different venue, such as like an RSL club or maybe a zoo or a park or something. So if anyone has any suggestions or ideas on where we could hold the Christmas party, just let us know, any of the committee know in the next few days, because we'll probably have to sort that one out within the next week or so as well, because I imagine everything's booking up quite quickly after COVID. So that's just one small thing as well. If anyone has any ideas.
Yeah, we could have it at Richmond and sort birds while we're doing it.
Oh, just, yeah, but the online auction only requires half a dozen people. And if they're all eating pizza and Kentucky Fried and drinking beer, they won't be doing anything.
It'll be your job to organise them, Sam.
The Christmas party, because there's a free prawns on, you know, costs 1,000 show up, don't they?
There's some talk about Featherdale, but Featherdale's, one club did that last year, worked out all right, but it's a bit limited and we're very weather dependent.
Yeah, that is true. Yes, well, something we can throw on some ideas and prices and things like that in the next week or so. And yeah, we will see how we go. We might move on to the AGM part of the meeting so that we don't go on too late tonight. Sam, do you want to do the Treasurer's report? And then
I shall. Yeah, I'll just share the spreadsheet. So as you know, sadly, Lynn passed away, and I sort of ended up with the job, which I didn't mind doing. And therefore, some of if you look at this worksheet here, the balance sheet I'm pretty much 100% is correct. The income and expenses, I don't have last year's because the COVID was on, and we've not managed to retrieve all of Lynn's books. But nevertheless, I think we're pretty accurate here. So we've got, sorry, why don't I just move? There's too many things going on my screen. Everyone can see that all right, can they?
Can't see the bottom.
Okay, I'll bring the bottom up in a sec when I get to it. So the balance sheet is showing that in 2020, so at the end of the financial year 2020, we had sales table stock of 6,500. So that's correct because Ben's got a terrific memory. Fixed assets, this is based on 2019 and then depreciating that because we didn't do 2020 by 20% each year. I'm not sure what happened with Lynn. The 2019 I had was she hardly depreciated it at all, and it was a little bit wonky. But anyway, and then in the bank we had that much money, so we had assets totaling 37,000, and then the similar numbers for this year. So we've got at this point at the end of the financial year 2021, we had total assets of $37,940.67. So the difference between that and that is roughly $800. So we made $800 despite COVID. So that's not bad going. Then in terms of income and expenses, sales table sold, which is down. One would expect that, given that we've hardly had any meetings. The total sold still reasonable. A fair bit of that actually was the auction, the online auction. A lot of sales table items were sold there, so a lot of that's the online auction, and in fact it's the sales table why we did so well out of that, because as you'll see, the seller fees for that auction were only $425 that we took. So the sales table 7,000, etc. So, and you can see all the other costs. I won't go through them, but so total income was 19,000. And I'll just note that the sponsorship, that's adverts in the magazine, essentially, and that's Murray McPherson's work. So thanks, Murray, for doing that. The membership, of course, is Brian, and everybody who's in this meeting who's paid for membership. So that's great. And then the raffles, of course, that's essentially Joe Gaffer and was, I'm not sure when did Brian pass away. It might be mainly Joe, but again, that's down substantially because of course we've hardly had any meetings. And then same with the major raffle is down a bit because normally we sell substantial numbers of like well over $1,000 worth at our December sale. Instead, we only sold a few as part of the online auction, but still total income of nearly 20 grand. Then expenses totaling well $798 less than that. So sales table stock, because there's still obviously stuff being sold. A lot of this, the reason the sales table stock up the top here has risen from 6.5 to 7.4, that's mainly the extra sales cages that we bought. So there's, you know, $1,000 odd more than that. I think actually $1,200 odd worth of sale cages. So for the auction, if we run it this year, we won't need to buy any more. We've got enough to do this year, most likely. Magazine printing and packing, postage. So that's mainly the magazine, but also includes the sales table, which has been a lot more postage than normal, obviously, because it's all been going in the post. Hall hire, we'll probably get some of that back, but we haven't got it back yet. The rest are all sort of fairly trivial, I guess. And depreciation is essentially depreciation on the trailer, but it's the difference, obviously, between that amount and that amount is the depreciation of it. So anyway, the bottom line is we're in front by $800 this year, and the big number is the club had at the end of June, end of the financial year, nearly $38,000 in assets. Is there any questions?
Sam, it's probably worth saying that in prior years, we've made about 6,000 or 7,000 from the bird sale in December.
Indeed.
That's often been why we've made a more significant profit in prior years, which we didn't have last year.
Yes, exactly. That is the difference, I think. Yeah. But I mean, you know, honestly, I guess we need to start thinking about, well, I mean, obviously we can't spend all that 37 because some of it's in fixed assets and stock that we need for the sales table. But really this 25,000, I mean, I think I said in the main meeting, we've got at the, you know, essentially 26,000 in the bank now, and we're really at the worst time of the year. We've got membership in the auction to come. So this time next year, you would imagine we're going to be, you know, better again. Why does a club like ours need 25,000 in cash? I would estimate, you know, look, if we had 10 grand, just as, you know, I don't even know why we'd need 10 grand, to be honest, but, you know, so we can at least pay for a couple of magazines if it all turned to crap or something, maybe. So we need to sort of, I guess, have a, you know, as membership, think, well, if we continue to make $5 grand a year or whatever, I mean, I accept what Don's saying, this year's an anomaly, you know, what do we do with it? There are a lot of bird clubs I'm aware of that have substantial amount of money, but they never do anything with it. You know, what is the point of just having it sitting in the bank, particularly at the moment where you earn essentially negative interest because the, you know, CPI is much higher than what you get from. We don't get any interest essentially in a normal bank account.
Pay dividends to all members.
Yeah.
It's a good point, Sam. I think it's worth considering. I mean, you know, you probably need enough to fund the working capital, which is probably only 10 grand at the most. So you've got probably 15,000, and you can look at how do you best reward members, because members have contributed that over the years to that surplus. You know, whether it's subsidising various trips or Christmas parties or suppers or whatever, you know.
Yeah, well, I think one of the words you just said then, Don, very critical, trips. We've talked about it. We've done one that was really successful. If we subsidise it, we might get 2 buses instead of 1. And it's the sort of thing that people like to do. So if I'm on the committee next year, I'm certainly going to be pushing for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree with the bus trips. I love that sort of thing. I'm certainly happy and wouldn't mind it being subsidised. But we're getting to the point where there's, you know, relatively substantial, you know, something that we could, you know, we could invest in something that's going to kind of help agriculture, or that's going to, you know, I'd rather. I mean, I've had, and most of the people who are in this meeting, you know, we've all contributed by giving our time or even just paying membership fees or buying raffle tickets or whatever to this sort of wad of cash. You know, I kind of feel like, you know, it'd be good to do something, you know, that's relatively significant with it, rather than just everybody gets a free meal or, you know, a free, you know, whatever, a free entrance to Featherdale or something, which is, I think most of us can well afford to pay that. But I agree. I'm not against subsidising that. What that would be, I don't know. I guess it's up to, maybe people can, you know, think of something. So I guess we're not going to resolve it tonight, are we?
Food for thought.
I think that's it.
It's definitely something to think about for sure.
I don't know what my treasurer's report was, but I'll write something in the magazine that summarises all that ramble.
Put that spreadsheet in there. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. I'll put the spreadsheet in and go, thanks everyone for giving money to the club still, despite the fact that we've only been online.
And Sam, are you continuing as treasurer, or should the club be looking at someone that assists you or takes over in due course?
Look, if there's somebody who would love to do it, that would be marvellous. But I guess I've kind of said, well, if there isn't, which might well be the reality, then I'll do it for a year, and then try and find something.
I'm just conscious that you take on a huge amount of work on behalf of the club and other bird organisations, and we don't want to burden you unduly. So could be looking through our membership to see what other financially astute members we've got who might volunteer.
Yes, would be marvellous. And no matter what happens in a few minutes, you obviously put your hand up in a couple of minutes. That'd be great. That'd be brilliant. But we can always swap positions at any time during the year. You don't have to wait for the AGM.
Exactly.
More than happy to stand aside and hand it to somebody else. Yeah, we are. Just one other thing. I can't remember whether I mentioned it. We are sorting the bank account, because when I look, there's a number of people. I think you might be one of them, Don, actually, who've stood aside in terms of being treasurer over the years, or in the case of Lynn, unfortunately, a deceased. That will remove from the account, and then we'll add a few new faces that have come onto the committee recently. So
I've actually done some research on that, Sam, and I know how to do it. But you've got to get everyone in a room to sign the document, and that's where we might be able to do it at the Christmas party.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get that done.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Do we have to move and second that? That's or not? I don't know.
Yeah, you should move it, and then someone can second it.
Someone move.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Who's seconding it?
Murray will second
Is that
it.
Don moving it and Ivan seconding it? No, and Murray seconding it, and anyone against, yell.
1, 4.
Thanks, Sam. That's good work.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Don. I'm glad I've got Don's approval.
And we've moved it and everyone's in favour. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes. All right.
Is that, Maddie, we move that be accepted and everyone's in favour?
Yes, everyone's in favour. Jason's got a thumbs up.
So another unanimous decision.
All right, I'm just going to quickly do my president's report, and then we'll go into the nominations and things. So first of all, a big thank you to all of the committee members. I think everyone can understand that we're all volunteers, and I think sometimes some people might forget that and get a bit impatient with things, but I really appreciate all the efforts of every committee member. Everyone has their own jobs in their own way, and even though we've had some trying times like the last 12 months with COVID, we've seen from Sam's report, the club's still thriving. So that's a testament to the committee members and everyone else for paying their memberships and turning up to the Zoom meetings. So I appreciate that. A few things from the last 12 months is that we've already mentioned tonight is the online auction. We did our first ever online auction last year. So that's a massive thank you to Sam, who I think it was your idea basically, and found the website and things like that. So it was a very exciting change for the club, and something definitely, as we've discussed tonight, that we can work on, and we can build the kind of online auction to be better every year, and possibly even add it in on top of the normal sale. Maybe we shall see. Second thing is a massive thank you to Ben Lloyd for all of his help with his sales trailer. and his second-hand man, Justin, as well. But for Ben, I know you work very, very long hours, but you still try to get all the orders done and get them out. I think that's one of our main incomes as well, as Sam has discussed. So it's a massive help. Ben packing all the orders and answering phone calls, things like that. I think sometimes people think it's a shop that we're running, but we're not. We're volunteering and we're trying our best. So thank you for people for being patient, and thank you to Ben. The other thing is Zoom. We've managed to keep on Zoom a fair amount, and we actually, just before the last meeting, before we went into lockdown, we managed to successfully get Zoom working. Paul and Sam were playing around with a few things, and we've worked out how to make it successful Zooming while we're at an in-person meeting as well. So that's exciting to look forward to in the next year. We might be able to have Zoom guest speakers present to our hall with the normal members. So that might be something that we can do in the new year. And we finally figured out how to get all the microphones and all that to work so that everyone on Zoom could hear it and everyone in person could also hear. So that's something exciting. Most of my points we have discussed a bit more in the meeting already, but I'll type it up and put it in the next magazine as well. Massive thank you again to Don for the Constitution. We finally don't have to say the word Constitution for a very long time, hopefully. And another successful year at the Easter show. Thank you very much to Ivan for all his help. Next year is the 200th anniversary of the Easter show. So I think we're all looking forward to that. Fingers crossed it should still go ahead. If it went ahead this year in the middle of COVID, I think it should be all good next year. So that's exciting, and I think it will be a massive show next year. And then lastly, this will definitely be my last year as president. I think I said that last year, and then I'm possibly still on for another year. I mean, if anyone would like to take it over, that's okay. But a few different circumstances changed, so it was more manageable at the moment to stay on. If everyone is happy with that, we shall soon find out. And in the next year, I have a year to hassle people to be president for next year. So if anyone has any ideas, I think there might be a few reshuffles of committee members. So if anyone wants to help out and get involved in the next 12 months, certainly we never say no to any extra help. So let us know, and we would greatly appreciate any additional people to the committee. And I think that is all for me tonight. I'll probably type up a bit more in the next magazine. So just look forward to that. And yeah. Does that one have to get moved as well?
Yep.
Yes? No?
You can move it. I'll second it.
Perfect. Thank you. And I will
take it. Everyone's happy with it?
Yeah.
No dissenting voices, so say yes. Thank you. I've written it down as accepted.
Okay, thank you. What's in the chat? Yeah, Sam's put in the group chat as well, which will be on the side for most people, the link for the Black Throat Gofundme page if anyone wants to check that one out. And then I'm going to hand over to Jason Forrest to chair the AGM. And if you'd like to take any positions as well.
Thanks, Maddie. So look, I officially call to order the annual general meeting of the Finch Society of Australia for the 13th of October 2021. So all committee positions on the executive of the FSA are now vacant. Before we begin, I would like to thank Maddie and the entire executive for their work and commitment to the FSA and to members over the past 2 years since our last AGM. So thanks, guys, tremendous effort. Okay, the first point of business is the election of the position of president. So Brian, do we have any nominations for the position of president?
Maddie Fish.
Maddie Fish. No other nominations out there?
None that I'm aware of, unless we hear any from the floor.
Okay then, under the rules of the Constitution of the FSA, I declare Maddie Fish president. So welcome back, Maddie. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So look, I think I'll hand back the AGM to you, Maddie. So great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. For Vice President, should I go through each position, or at this stage we don't have any nominations for positions? How should I do this,
Well,
Brian?
everyone can see the screen. All those people are standing again. So we could do it all on one block if you like, but just call for nominations for any of those positions. If there are any other nominations, I'd like to hear them now. Otherwise, we can declare all those people successful and welcome them to the committee for another year.
Yes.
So Maddie, I guess we just need to hear if there's any other nominations. I haven't had any up till now, other than those ones in front of us.
Yep. Me neither. Does anyone have any nominations for us?
Definitely silence.
Particularly Treasurer. Treasurer, great job.
You didn't do enough.
Don will agree. He loved being Treasurer. He was Treasurer for 20 years or something. Is that exciting a position?
You didn't
need to go, Sam.
You would have started lobbying 10 minutes before, more than 10 minutes before next year.
Yeah, we'll be getting the troops out early next year. All right, well then, if we have no other nominations, I will declare that everyone is staying as is per what's up on the screen. So thank you everyone and welcome back for another year of the committee. Should we move and second that? I'll move it, and can someone
I'll second. Bob Bones, I'll second.
Bob Bones, second. 30. Righto. And
Perfect.
maybe you can email that to me and I'll just add it to the minutes book, Maddie.
Yeah.
The list of names.
That's all good.
Matt, it's worthwhile noting, and I think Sam mentioned this, that if there ever is a vacancy during the year, it can be filled at that time. It doesn't have to wait to the AGM to fill a vacancy. So if you've got a volunteer for treasurer, for example, that could take place, a handover could occur during the year whenever it's convenient.
Yes, if anyone would like president position, just let us all know. Yes, that's a very good point. Thank you, Don. And thank you to everyone on the committee for staying on for another year. I really appreciate everyone's efforts. It's definitely a group effort. I think there's no one-man show here. We all chip in, everyone messages everyone, what should we do with this or that? So it works very well. So that will be the end of all the general business stuff, unless anyone else had anything else to raise. No. Okay, so tonight we have guest speaker David Pace. I will give it back to you, David. I'll stop my screen share and then you can share your screen if you've got a thing.
Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if I can share yet. Hang on.
Yeah, you're on.
Yes, I can. Yeah, great. So are you ready for me to take over, Maddie?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. I'll get this. You're seeing my screen now. And let's go here. And the title of my talk tonight is Keeping Clubs Like Yours and all the other clubs out there connected during COVID. And I think at this point, I would just have to say a huge congratulations to your club for the way you guys have maintained that connection with your members. And I think your club might have the historic privilege of the first Zoom meeting in aviculture. I'm not sure, but I suspect it might have been. And as I go through this, it's quite a short presentation because I know you've been going through all of your business and your election. So I'll keep it brief. I'm probably speaking to the converted here, but you've all got a role. And at the end, I'll get to what your role will be. Clubs, I think by the nature that you're here and watching tonight, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's via Zoom, you're like the people at our club in South Australia. You are, you know the value of being part of a club. And this was our first meeting at our new hall. There's probably about 40 people there, which is really, really good these days. And if we had a meeting last night, we had 30 people and that was pretty good. But I mean, clubs are generally struggling. I'm not sure how your club has gone historically, but I know clubs such as ours would have guest speakers, and this was our older venue, and we probably would get an average of 60 for a year. But in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, the meetings I attended would have hundreds of people. And those of you older or my age or older would probably might remember that aviculture was, or clubs in general. I think aviculture is still really popular and safe and it will always be here. But I think some clubs are really at the crossroads, and clubs like ours, Aviculture Society of South Australia, and my original club, Aviculture Society of Australia in Melbourne, would have attendances of up to 300 people in the 70s and 80s. And it slowly has dwindled down. And I think clubs that get between 20 and 50 would be pretty happy. I don't know, how many do you guys get these days on an average? When you have a face-to-face meeting, that is.
It depends on the meeting. If particularly like guest speakers wise, but sometimes it can be around 50 or so, 40 to 50. And then I think the one record one we had one year was actually the AGM. We had Steve Sass talking after the AGM. So it brought in about 70 members. So it was
excellent.
great.
Yeah, good. Great. So
Except in the NRL games.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, and as you know, clubs are a great place. We can get guest speakers from, as in your own members, or you can bring in people from interstate. This is when we brought Ian Brown from Queensland in, and it's just a great way of sharing information. This is one of our own members, one of the elders, you know, one of the really important elders, and every club's got the elders, you know, that are so valuable and their lifetime of knowledge. This is Tom Massey at a gadget night, probably talking about how he uses that paint scraper. So it's an opportunity where if you don't have clubs, I mean, you know, you lose the information from and the characters, and so it's really, really important to maintain that. One of the things that we find great at our club is breaking into groups and having hands-on workshops. Our next month we're running one on feeding for breeding, and so we'll have 3 different areas where small groups get together, someone demonstrates what they do, and there's a round table discussion on how other people do it, and it gets those quiet people involved. And I think it's another great thing about clubs. You have this amalgamation of people with so much experience and so many ways of doing things, because as we know, there's not one way of doing anything. Our club, the Aviculture Society of South Australia, is one of the oldest in the world. I think Richard Chilton says it's the 3rd oldest or the 2nd oldest. And we celebrated a few years ago our 90th birthday. And it was an absolutely fabulous night. We had guest speakers. I think we had Cheryl Mayers that night. And this is a photograph of all our life members, you know, Mark Shepherd over here, or, you know, and basically we're able to announce 2 more life members, and there they are cutting the cake, and everything was looking rosy and honky-dory, and then COVID hit, and you know, we all know the implications and the impact, and I think you guys know it much more than I could possibly. In South Australia, we've been quite lucky overall. I've got family in Victoria, and in New South Wales, and I know how hard people are doing it, and it makes us realise how great this hobby is, for those people that can't get out. But it's really caused us to rethink how we approach and how we keep connected, because through the isolation, the one thing we humans are creatures of habit, and when we get used to staying home, then we get into the habit of staying home, and even when things open up, we might stay home. And you saw that elder earlier, Tom Massey. He won't come to our meetings at the moment if he has to wear a mask. And I really worry about him, because I think he'll get into the habit, and when he doesn't have to wear a mask, he might not come back. So it is a game changer. But I think technology has been, or is the thing that we aviculturists need to embrace. And I think a society like yours has done it really well. And it can be done in so many ways. And it could be simply through text messages. I'm a member of the Mornington Peninsula Aviculture Society as well. And, you get members like this. Due to the latest lockdown, the meeting on Monday has changed to a Zoom meeting, because at no notice things change. So being able to text your members is so important. So it's really, really valuable to be able to maintain that kind of connection. Email is another one. So again, here's an email notification of a guest speaker with the Zoom password. Your society does this beautifully. There's a monthly email, or at least two, and there are Facebook's messages and so forth. And Facebook has been really instrumental in maintaining that connection, not just about club activities, but just general bird activities and keeping people connected. And so the important thing is keeping all those, all the different mechanisms of maintaining connection. Here's a couple of South Australian ones. There's our one there. The Lower Murray Bird Club had a great Facebook page. It was shut down last month. So unfortunately, they didn't use moderators when their administrators just allowed people to post, and someone put up birds for sale, and that was basically the end of their site. So that losing a Facebook page for those that have been involved, is a soul crushing experience, and there's a lot of knowledge in that Facebook page that is lost. So it's really important to be vigilant in the way it's administered, and to make sure that that people keep within the rules. And so you need really on the ball people watching that. Aussie softbillers experience that, and they've built up again. But you know what? They've probably got a better, closer, well-knit community now. Because in the early days of Facebook, it was just accept anyone and anyone from all over the world, and you didn't know whether they were into agriculture or just rubbernecking. And now I think through the lessons learned, I think we're a lot more savvy in making sure that we maintain groups that are healthy and vibrant and willing to contribute and help out. So there's lots of different clubs are doing it. I remember the Aviculture Society of Australia, I suspect, was the first to have a Facebook page, and it was one of their branches in the early 2000s. And there was such an uproar by the then committee of the ASA. They were threatening to sue the branch that set up a Facebook page. But I mean, I think now with hindsight, we realise how valuable Facebook has been as a way of keeping our clubs connected. And then Zoom has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, I'm preaching to the converted here. You're all watching this Zoom presentation, and it's just been a great means of being able to see each other's faces and talk and laugh. These are the people from the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. Melbourne's had I think the longest lockdown in the world. So these guys would really, really benefit so much, you know, psychologically as well. Just being able to sort of have this kind of outlook and have this opportunity to connect. The really sad thing with our club is that we had a short lockdown, and when we reopened, I was at the door sitting there requesting members' phone numbers and emails, and the hesitancy I got was quite eye-opening, and very few of our members wanted to give up email addresses, wanted to give up mobile phone numbers, and it really made me think that this was our future, that if we couldn't keep connected and be able to let members know at the drop of a hat that there was a lockdown or a change, then we were really doomed, because we would get into that routine of lockdown and complacency and lose contact with each other. And it was really important to try and get our members to allow us to connect with them and to use technology. And if they didn't have technology, it was so important that they learnt how to use it. And I think that the key message I really would like to leave you with in this part of the talk is that I think we all have a role, and the role is to find those members, particularly those elders that are so valuable, and to teach them the parts of the technology they don't use. So if there's people that you know that would be at a live meeting, but they're not at this Zoom meeting, try and find out why. Why aren't they using Zoom? Do they know how to use it? Can you show them how to use it? Can you set it up for them? Because there are people around there are people around them that can help them, but they need to know the importance, because if they don't get involved, then their club will suffer. And if their club suffers, this could be the result of many bird clubs in Australia. So I just want to go from that and go to birds. Is that okay? I'm just going to show a few birds. One of the things I love doing, and thanks, Sam. I know you were keen on seeing that, using the photo for the front cover. This is a slightly different one from that, but one of my favourite birds is the diamond firetail, and I've probably bred over 300 of them over the years, and they're just one of my dear favourites. They're just such a hardy, consistent bird.
We'll have a copy of some of these photos in the next magazine. Thank you, David,
as a
for
magazine
so generously giving them to us.
No, so I mean, it's a crappy background. I'm a bit of a fussy photographer. You know, there's poo on the wire there, and you can see the hot wire going across there. But it just shows the characters of these diamond firetails. And I get a lot of pleasure of photographing in the wild. So I'm a bit of a crazy bird photographer. So these are diamond firetails in the wild. We're lucky enough to have them about 40 minutes from Adelaide. This is in the Monarto area, a place called the Monarto Woodlands. And there was a few of them drinking out of a puddle there, which was awesome. And on a separate occasion, I was able to come across a flock of them, and they were feeding on the different grass seeds, lots of wallaby grass. And I've even seen them and photographed them eating casuarina seeds, Ella casuarina verticillata, the seeds of that. This is one of my captive ones. This is a hen bird, an absolutely delightful bird. And then more recently, this was 2 weeks ago, I was photographing, where was I? A place called Cox's Scrub. And there's just a puddle. And if you stay there long enough, the beautiful firetail or 2 or 3 will come down and have a drink. But if you don't sit there, you won't see them. You could walk around I lived in Anglesea and Torquay for 20 years in Victoria, and there's beautiful firetails in that area. I never saw one ever, but if it's sitting with the water source. So absolutely delightful bird. And it's interesting reading the early literature on them, especially Cayley, 1932. There's a great chapter, if you can get that book, there's a great chapter on early breeding successes with the beautiful firetail. And they were bred in colonies by someone in Sydney, and it's all referenced there. I suspect one of their issues in captivity is the size of the seed we feed. I think they eat very fine seed, and if you look at casuarina seeds, which is one of their staples, it is tiny, and you've possibly seen what eucalypt seeds look like. It's almost dust. And I think we're trying to give them white millet and panican, which is just like trying to eat marbles. But absolutely beautiful bird, probably the holy grail for me, seeing them in the wild. I haven't seen one in captivity. I know Marcus in Tasmania had them, and the guy in Stall had them in the 80s. And I'm just going to leave you with, this is my aviary food prep area, and it usually takes me about 30 minutes to feed them, but I've condensed it down here using the high speed to about 35 seconds. So, and I access my aviaries from the walkway with trays, and have all the fridge and the paraphernalia that you win at Raffles, and you've got to find a place for it. So having a nice 2 metre wide bird room is very, very handy. And I'm just going to leave you with that and some food for thought about what you might be able to do personally for someone who hasn't engaged in the technology, because it's so important to get them involved, or you'll lose them. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, David.
I'll stop.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Yeah, some awesome bird pictures and some really good points. I think it's very, very important, the technology thing. And I guess one of my biggest worries actually is when we have those snap lockdowns, the people that don't actually even receive our emails because they don't have access to just emails, I'm scared that someone's just going to one day turn up to the hall and nobody else will be there. So I normally try to include in the email, please let your friends know, if they don't receive the emails, to make sure that they don't just turn up. So I guess you kind of forget at times how important it is, this technology, to connect with members.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. And I think it's an important point you made, David. And as the membership secretary, I do talk to a lot of members about joining in on the Zoom meetings, and a very common response from some of the older members is, I don't do computers very well. So
yeah, and I think the response to that needs to be something along the lines of, we need you to be interested because we'll die without you. It's almost, put it back onto them. If you love this club, you actually have to. It needs people that they respect to say that to them. We need you, and we can't do it without you. And if you can't do it, this club might die. Because that's the reality of the whole thing. It really needs you people who have mastered parts of it. No one's a master of it all, but but if they haven't got a smartphone, somehow get them a smartphone. You're talking about what to do with money. Buy some smartphones and give them out, or whatever. But get them involved.
And I was interested in what you were talking about, your little workshops at the meetings, and particularly a lot of the older guys and are the ones who've got the knowledge, but they're not very computer literate. So maybe that's something we could do at some of our meetings, is sort of try and up
and
their level.
Our meeting last night was we got 3 people to speak that had never spoken before on a bird that they've had success with, but there was no visuals and no technology. So you saw, and we could do that because we're not in lockdown. So so it's non-threatening. You don't always have to have pictures on the screen, just letting talk and tell a story, but allowing them to engage. But we've just got to make sure as clubs we survive. And as I said at the beginning, I think agriculture's safe. You see how many people go to sales. There'll always be people keeping birds, but there might not always be bird clubs because times have changed. And so there's lots of challenges there. So really important to try and keep people connected through the clubs.
Some good points. Thanks, David.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in terms of the workshops, I think they're some of the most successful meetings that we've had. We haven't done the workshop setting, but we've done like a table discussion where, say, I'll get like 4 people to come up the front and just talk about, say, we've done live food. So one person did mealworms, one person did maggots, crickets, and then I think it was sprouted seed or something like that. And then you get people start asking questions and start jumping back and forward. And I think that's normally when we all come away saying, oh, that was a really successful meeting, when it's not just the speaker talking, it's the crowd bouncing back and forward. Because as you said, there's so much knowledge in our meetings, in the attendance, that we need to utilize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do pretty much the same with those workshops, but they run at the same time. And then a little bell will go in 15 minutes and everyone rotates, and they'll rotate to 3 different things. So there's a real hive of activity. There's a real buzz in the room. It's not everyone just watching the one thing.
I think that's a great idea, but it's been some years, I think, since we've tried splitting into groups. So, you kind of forget to do it. You go back to that sort of, talking head up the front of the room, don't you, if you're not careful. But it's a good reminder, David. Thanks very much for everything.
Hello, hi there. I'm from the ASA in Melbourne, Chris Farrell. We do sometimes panels, and then last one we did a panel on doves and pigeons, just instead of parrots and finches, and then we have a gadget night as well, and that's something that's we did a gadget night this year on Zoom. We were supposed to have it live, but it was quite funny. We organised it last minute, and it's amazing how people were able to use Zoom. Some of the older people that were able to adapt to Zoom, and it is actually very surprising. A lot of older members have been very happy to attend Zoom because they're either not well, they haven't been able to come to face-to-face for years, and there's been a huge endorsement to people that are a long way away. And we're getting, I organised a speaker last month from Med from Indonesia. He's the manager for the World Parrot Trust over there, and his talk and his videos of birds of paradise was phenomenal. So it's really being seen by a lot of people as a really great tool, Zoom. And Maddie, we're also interested in trying to Zoom probably speakers in next year if we can, when we go back to face-to-face. So I'd be very interested to hear how you're doing that, because that's something we're still trying to work on. But it's a really great tool, but we do miss those face-to-face. And what David was saying before about no photos, Graham Mitchell from our club did a talk on Zoom actually with no photos whatsoever. And it was incredible knowledge. He's just got an endless supply of knowledge. So it was very interesting to have that concept. I wasn't sure how he's going to do his talk. And then he just said, no, Chris, I don't need photos. I'll do it all. It'll be just discussion. And it was brilliant. So there's so many different avenues.
Thanks for those comments.
Yeah, I think it's very, it's an interesting time that we're in, I guess, and we're moving towards different things, which is exciting for the future. So lots of good discussion points. Thank you very much, David.
Yeah. So this is how good Zoom is. Andrew and I didn't want to miss or leave the meeting, so we're in the car.
It's so good. Well, that's it. You can even do the meetings from the car. I guess that's the thing. It makes it accessible, and that's what Chris was saying as well. It makes it accessible for a lot of people that can't always attend the meetings. I know, like our meetings are on a Wednesday night. It's kind of smack bang in the middle of the week, and sometimes people get caught up with work and stuff like that. It might make it hard to attend the meetings, but you can still attend via Zoom. And then to keep them on YouTube as well, like I know when we look at them, like the views go up like crazy. Even after the meetings, people will go back and watch the meetings, which is really good as well.
Deborah, don't please stop driving.
I'm not driving.
stop.
Andrew's driving.
Are you grandparents yet?
Hey?
Have you become a grandmother yet?
Oh, not yet. Very soon.
Good luck.
Thanks, Bob.
And I mean, it's marvellous,
Gotta
isn't
mute
it,
yourself.
for clubs like yours, Chris, the ASA, and also Finch Society, where we've got members, you know, that are all over. For us, Finch Society, it's mainly New South Wales, but obviously there's a number of interstate members as well that are on here tonight that normally can't come to meetings. And I know it's in my role as president of Canary and Cage Bird Federation of Australia, when I first suggested Zoom, you know, a lot of the old blokes who are terrific, you know, like David was saying, you know, terrific knowledge and all that, who've been coming to Ashfield RSL and doing that volunteer work for, you know, in some cases 30 plus years, they were a little bit reluctant, you know. And for us, the fact that if there's a positive this COVID, the fact that we started doing Zoom with Federation opened it up to the whole country. And, you know, the last meeting we had, although some people complain, we had people from Queensland, from Victoria, from South Australia. I think there was one from Tasmania, from Western Australia, from ACT. Suddenly the whole country is engaged. You know, now it's not every club, but the fact that they can all come to our meetings, which they should, you know, we're claiming to be a national organisation when you know what we were previously in reality in terms of meetings, it was people who could physically get to Ashfield you know, which is the middle of Sydney, you know. I mean, obviously people from interstate were never going to come. So it's a real game changer in that regard. I think it's fantastic. And I mean, for me, for business, it's changed my life. You know, where it would be a whole day to go and have a 1 hour meeting in the city. Now you have the 1 hour meeting and you go back to bed, or you don't, you know, get on with work, but you can do it in your jammies basically and move on, get on with life. It's fantastic. I reckon it really is terrific, the technology. But I agree with David. We also, the live, you can't beat the live meetings either. So it'll be fantastic when we can do both. You know, so you got the best of both worlds. Really looking forward to that.
Sam, with the Zoom as well, when we did the gadget night, which was really funny, we had a guy, Bill Painter, who's from England, and he actually walked around. This was a real eye opener. He went outside. Like, Bill didn't look like a guy that would actually be able to be great with technology. He walked around his backyard in England and showed his aviaries I think it was snowing at the time too. So there was a few doubters, and that really shook a few people up and realised how useful this was. And Bill turns up to all those Zoom sessions, so they're on a Wednesday too. So everyone's welcome to come to ours. I'll join, be a member of you guys, and I've actually got a little ecotourism property that I've building up. I'm going to give 50% to conservation, so I'll flick some money your way too as well. So for your, I heard that earlier, so I'll be happy to send some money that way as well. But it's just a huge advantage, Zoom. But yeah, face to face, you can't beat it. You just can't.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think we're coming to the end of the meeting a bit late tonight because we had all of our business things. And I guess that's one thing that we've tried to not do too much businessy and focus on guest speakers and things like that, because I think that's what really engages people, like new members and things like that. They come to meetings, they don't want to hear all the dribs and drabs, they want to just hear the interesting talks. But on nights like the AGM, we can't really avoid that too much, but it's always good to keep members informed. So it is best of both worlds. But yeah, thank you everyone. There's a fair few on the Zoom tonight, so I really appreciate it. And there's a few on YouTube as well, so thank you everyone. I think that's it for tonight.
Well done. Thanks, Matty.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David.
Yep. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I think there were about 40 on Zoom and maybe 20 at one stage on YouTube. So, yeah, so it's not too bad.
Yours
40,
41. 41, I think.
41 was there at one stage here. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yes, very good. Well, we shall see everyone again on Zoom in November. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Awesome.
Thanks all. See you then.
Yeah, good night, everyone. Thank